Hello there, YouTube. I am Necrostevo. And it's time for pool battle number 1 in one last ride. That's right. It is time for one last ride to finally begin. And as I'm sure you've seen other coaches uploading, we are also here to enjoy that ride. Our first battle in pools is up against ChefHoo, ChefHoo, and the Manshine City Necrozmas, who has been uploading and battling for quite a while, so it is very likely that you already know about his channel. However, if you don't, and you need a little bit of spice in your life, head on over there and check out his side of the battles and uploads. For this draft league, a quick team breakdown. You can see his team with Terra Ogrepon on his side alongside Terra Toucanon. We have our trusty Terra Tornadus and Terra Beertick. For this battle, we ended up going with a very bulky Tinglu alongside a very specially defensive Swalot, a very speedy yet bulky Rotom, alongside Terapagos and Ogrepon, just to put on the pressure, and then that is rounded out by a Terra Fairy Tornadus Therian. The idea with this team is that I can not only pivot in and out relatively easily and take advantage hopefully of his threats, but I would hopefully get an opportunity to either go for the rapid spin with my Terapagos or set up with Ogrepon. Either one of those would have been ways that we could have taken victory in this match. Now there are a few 50-50s at play. I do not like the idea of kind of getting caught in the blender between him swapping in and out with a few of his Pokemon. However, I did think we had the tools to play around it in this game. We are running Assault Vest Tornadus for this matchup. And so not only does that give us a little bit more longevity, it also will allow us to soak up hits a little bit better and more reliably against his slew of offensive threats. The other nice thing about Tornadus coming in here is that early on it can serve as a check to the likes of Garchomp, and then later on it can hopefully serve as a check to the likes of Darkrai. Now I will admit, in this matchup, I did not have I think I underestimated, rather, certain things. Like I underestimated Toucanon. When you run calcs on Toucanon, you can see just how hard it can hit with like loaded dice and all these multi-hit moves, especially if it tears into them, and it can Swords Dance too. Also, Comfey, with its triage ability, can be very, very annoying. So a few different threats there that I did not really properly take into account. However, all of that is neither here nor there. We're going to stick to the game plan. We're going to lead with our Rocky Helmet, bulky Rotom here, and you can actually see that our opponent does not bring the Toucanon, which means we are certainly dealing with Terra Ogrepon. Of course, if you're not aware, Ogrepon can only Terra into the type of mass that it's holding. So that means we're going to have to be dealing with a very wet stick this battle. I don't know why I put so much emphasis on the wet, but I do think that it is apt. We do see lead Glimmora here in the first matchup of this battle, and knowing that Glimmora would love to just set up any sort of entry hazards, or it could also be offensive, we're going to go right for our light screen. This is a pretty fast Glimmora, as I did EV this Rotom to outspeed a lot of his team. I think I had 216 speed on it there. I do get a light screen, but he goes for Mortal Spin just to apply poison to my Rotom. The Rocky Helmet chip is nice just in the off chance that he was Focus Sash. Here I went for the Will-O-Wisp, expecting him to go out to Garchomp that turn, because Volt Switch seemed like it was a little bit predictable. Thinking that he was going to stay in and maybe set up another entry hazard, I decided to go for Volt Switch this turn, but this is the turn that Who decides to switch to the Garchomp. So not off to a great start. I got my turn order reversed there. because I could have gotten out of that matchup one turn earlier and brought in something to threaten the Glimora and stop the Garchomp from coming in so freely. Since Garchomp is ballsy enough to switch in here, I am thinking that it's a substitute set and I do not want to go for Will-O-Wisp on it. And so I decide to take the opportunity to go out to my Ting-Lu on the off chance that the Garchomp decides to set up with substitute. With Ting-Lu, I could whirlwind him out even if he has a Swords Dance boost. I can live any move that he goes for. So we have Ting-Lu in here, and I believe you might be starting to notice a little bit of a theme with the team names. Let me know in the comment section if you're picking up on the team name theme there. I'm curious. Now, expecting him to go for a Mortal Spin or maybe even set up more hazards, I do go out to Swalot here. This is a specially defensive Swalot, and I went specially defensive not only to take on the likes of Darkrai, but it does allow me to very easily eat an Earth Power, especially with the light screen up coming out from Glimora. Now here I was so sure that he was going to stay in because I swapped out last time, but once again I get the call incorrect, and I reveal that I had the Earthquake as Corviknight swaps in for free. Corviknight is quite the pain in the butt, but here I have Encore in case he tries to set up with Iron Defense, but for some reason I'm faster. This is a sassy Swalot with a 0 speed IV that I bred specifically for this battle, and why am I faster than the Corviknight? I did not understand that unless it had Iron Ball or something like that. Very concerning there. It's just not sassy enough. This monsieur, this connoisseur of the cheeses, is just too fast with his opinions when he's eating these things. Now Garchomp is back on the field, not what we like to see. I switched out last time, so I was like, I really don't want to let him set up for free now, but if I go out into the Ting-Lu, that's exactly what I did last time. He could just swap back around like he did before. So he goes for a Scale Shot as I go for Ice Beam, and I was like, oh great, okay, so this is going to work out here, because he could have gone for the ground type move. However, this is what I prefer. Now I do not like taking that much damage on my specially defensive wall, but the opportunity to put this much damage on the Garchomp is amazing. I love putting it easily into range for a few different things here. Number one, if I get some entry hazards up, I can very easily chip it out. Number two, even though he has +1 speed, I can threaten him out a few different ways, and then he will be forced to come back in later. So right here we are going to go out into Ting-Lu as he does go for Earthquake, not wanting to lower his defenses anymore, and it does functionally nothing because this Ting-Lu has max special defense and no wait, this one has max defense and max special defense, I believe is what I put on it. So here, expecting him to go out to the Corviknight, I know I want my spikes up. Yes, Corviknight can defog them away, but if he does defog them away, he will also be removing his Stealth Rocks from the field. I go out into Rotom hoping that he would either go for defog or go for U-turn, as U-turn will be a contact move that will get me a little bit extra chip through that Rocky Helmet. Unfortunately for me, this does allow Ogrepon to hit the field with that wet stick. And I don't know if you all know anything about cheeses and how they are aged and how they apply mold to them, but you have to get that cheese really, really wet sometimes. And who is a chef? He knows this. And I'm guessing that's why he went just full Ogrepon bonking mode here. Terra, Water, Ogrepon. Unfortunately, I don't really have a swap in for that. Now I do have several Pokemon that can live a hit from the Ogrepon, barring that it's not at +2, but I did not want to risk swapping something in there. Now coming in with Terapagos at this point, this is my first time drafting a Terapagos here. I think this was a misplay to bring out Terapagos this early in the battle, because he's just able to U-turn and break my Terra Shell. Now I did expect to see his Ghost type coming in here, because Terapagos, being a normal type, wants to throw off those normal type moves, and so the Ghost type was an easy swap in. But that's exactly why we packed Toxic. I really should have brought Dazzling Gleam, that would have been even better, but I was very worried about Sableye using Encore to lock me into the move that I went for with Terapagos. So here we are able to apply Toxic, and now am torn between swapping into Swalot or Ting Lu, thinking that he might want to go for screens. I decide to go out into Ting Lu so I could maybe set up some more entry hazards. Unfortunately for me, he is going to go for knockoff and remove Ting Lu's item, which is the citrus berry, and I was so close to getting my citrus berry activated. It would have been very nice to be able to have a little bit of a snack, you know, berries, cheese, fruit and cheese, they go together. Not like Reese's or anything like that, but they are a very classic pairing, and now I don't have it. So thank you, ChefHoo. You were just showing me the chops here. Now I'm expecting him to swap out because really Sableye can't do much of anything to Ting Lu besides maybe Drain Punch, but it wouldn't do that much damage. So I get a free Whirlwind off there. And here I thought for sure he was going to stay in because I could just keep on Whirlwinding, and he knows that his physical moves aren't going to do very much to this Ting Lu. Last time Earthquake did about 20%, if that. But he swaps out once again. I could have just kept on Whirlwinding. So unfortunately for me, this bird gets to come in here, Corviknight. This taxi gets to come in. I go for spikes, expecting him to U-turn out. But he takes the opportunity to go for a body press here. I also kind of predicted him to go for an earthquake right there. So I do get up another layer of spikes. Again, he might just defog these away, which is another reason I just went for it. Thinking, okay, he's starting to swap in and out a lot. Maybe I just need to get up more hazards as he defogs. But once again, my Ting Lu just isn't in the position that it wants to be in. So we're going to go out into Tornadus at this point, expecting another body press, but he goes for U-turn. And really at this point, I am just... You hear a lot of YouTubers and Poketubers talk about over-predicting. And this isn't over-predicting because I have a bead on what Who is going to do, but I'm doing it at the wrong time. So in the early game, I was like, oh, I know what he's going to do. And I did things a turn out of order. And so it's not really over-predicting as it just is an incorrect prediction. So I was getting kind of annoyed at my timing in this battle. But here we are going to go straight for our Terra. And as we go for U-turn to get out of there, we do accidentally proc that toxic debris. But that's another reason I was keeping Swalot alive, because I can easily take any hits from Glimmora and also soak up the toxic spikes. The Mortal Spin my spikes from his side of the field, which is super unfortunate because I really wanted those around. We saw how low the Garchomp is, and now also his Glimmora are both very low in HP. And I was like, okay, is he going to go back out to Garchomp here? Because he totally could do it. He also could go out to the Ogrepon. Now, he stays in as I go for Ice Beam. I thought for sure he was going to go out to the Garchomp, or even the Corviknight, maybe, possibly. But Ice Beam does not do enough damage, and then the Glimmora does not die to the burn damage. Fortunately, because I'm so specially bulky, I don't die to him going for the Power Gem. But this allows him to get up a last gasp layer of spikes alongside that layer of rocks. And I was just like, this is the worst case scenario. My hazards are gone. And now he has extra hazards because I just didn't KO him when I had an opportunity to do so. Granted, if I had gone for Earthquake, there would be a toxic spike on my side of the field. So it is a little bit of a trade-off. Oh, and speaking of trade-offs, we have to say goodbye to Mansour here because I just don't have a swap-in for the Wet Stick. I could have very easily gone Terra Grass or Terra Water or Terra Dragon even on my Tornadus, but I went Terra Fairy because I was worried about the Darkrai, and that's why I had the Assault Vest on Tornadus. So really, my inability to deal with the Ogrepon the way that I wanted to comes down to number one, I think I picked the wrong Terra for this matchup. And number two, just that early game, if I had been able to keep my entry hazards on the field and also more aggressively force the Rapid Spin when I wanted to do it, then we would be talking a very different game. That's okay though, you know. There are still a few tools that we have left in this end game. Thinking that he might try to stay in and set up, I do just go straight for Toxic there. because I know that if the Sableye comes in, I can always switch out and kind of play around in it in that way. I was really worried about the Sableye having Encore. I was also worried about it having Thunder Wave. I feel like if he had the Thunder Wave, he would have gone for it here. But you know, he switches out, and then as he switches out, I just go for Flamethrower, hoping to do some damage to the Sableye. And I would have loved a burn right there, even though you know, it's not like I would have done that on a prediction or anything like that. But I would have loved a burn there. Now here I did go for a Rapid Spin, expecting him to just attack me, but he makes a brilliant move and goes for the Trailblaze. So now he's still faster than me, even though I went for my Rapid Spin. I do get rid of those entry hazards, which means that my Ogrepon, the Cornerstone form, has its sturdy intact. So here I am going to lose a third Pokemon to this Wet Ladle, brandishing it so aggressively at my team. Ah man, I just don't have a good answer to it. Here I would have loved to win a speed tie. This was absolutely a speed tie and I lost it here. I just gambled on the speed tie. I actually had a mock before this. Shoutouts to the council. I believe it was against Shroom Raver, where I was not running max speed on my Ogrepon, and I bluffed that it was a speed tie. So here I did change it to that, just in case I needed that opportunity to win that. Alas, we aren't able to do hardly any damage to this Corviknight. I really need a Swords Dance up in order to break it. But since it has Body Press, it's highly likely that it has Iron Defense and Roost as well, because we did not see Defog from it earlier. So U-Turn, Iron Defense, Body Press, Roost is probably what that Corviknight has, if I had to guess. I bring out Tornadus because I did figure that that was the moveset on that Pokemon, and I figured that Tornadus could basically wall it if that's what it had. The Sableye comes out, and I was like, okay, does he have any... What does he have? Because I haven't seen screens from it. The only thing I've seen from it really is Knockoff. And so I go out to Ting-Lu thinking that if he's going to go for Thunder Wave or Will-O-Wisp or anything by Prankster, it would not work on Ting-Lu. So I do get that call correct. Finally, here in the last gasp of the battle, we finally get a call right. So we take those. We also take this KO here on the Garchomp coming in, because I was very tempted to go for a Whirlwind, thinking that he might want to go out to the Corviknight. So we get 2 calls correct, and that's about all the things correct that we can get, because we're just not done getting the work here from Queen Addy, the terrestrialized Ogrepon. My team at this point is just too weak to take hits from it, and I lost that speed tie earlier. That was my Hail Mary attempt of finishing off his Ogrepon. If I had hit the Ogrepon earlier, before it swapped out with the U-turn, then we honestly would still be in this battle, because I have a full health Tornadus for his Darkrai in the back. But here, this is just going to be it, because he's able to finish me off with a Trailblaze, which means he'll also be faster than my Tornadus. And Tornadus, as I mentioned before, is more specially bulky. It does not have the physical bulk in this matchup. So I do go for Bleakwind Storm. Just on the off chance that I live a hit from it, I need to be able to KO it, and there's no reason to try to go for Terra Blast, because Terra Blast might not kill it. It just might not have the raw power here. So we do go for that. We do live, and we go for the Bleakwind Storm, and it does no damage, because of course the Wellspring Mask gives a special defense boost there. So I would have also loved a speed drop, would have been great there too. A speed drop would have enabled me to outspeed him on the next turn. So Bleakwind Storm was my best move in that situation, barring maybe going for Heat Wave and hoping for a burn. But that's just going to be too little too late at that point. So unfortunately, for our first match in pools, in one last ride, we are going to lose almost 6-0. It's a very narrow loss here, where I did manage to KO 2 of his Pokemon, but it really felt like a 6-0 because all 6 KOs went to his Ogrepon. Whew. Put the chef's hat on that Ogrepon, because holy crap, that meal was served up very roughly for our team. That being said, I still love this team that we built, and I also really enjoyed this battle against Who. This was my first time having the privilege of battling him. But not the first time that I faced a chef. So, shout out to Vepsis there, who I also lost against. Does this mean that we need more seasoning in order to best the chefs of competitive Pokemon? I'm not sure. But what I am sure, what I'm darn sure about, is that we have to win our next 2 battles in one last ride in the opening pools. If you lose 2 battles, you are out. You need to win at least 2 battles to proceed to the next stage. It's kind of like PPL NX. And gosh darn it, we are going to win next week. So come back for this battle goodness for one last ride and watch us in our next battle in pools. Thank you so much for being here today. And I hope that you have a wonderful night. Goodbye.